Well, well, well. Not who you expected, is it, folks? I'd say I sorry to disappoint you, but you're not disappointed. Welcome to Wednesday. Welcome to Booze and Booze. We had a week off. We are without one of our fearless co-hosts this evening. He is off doing grown-up stuff, which we fully support. So I'm going to bring in all my crazy co-hosts, these people that we all know and love. I'm definitely bringing in Steve last. Here's my ladies. And Steve, my third lady. What is up, everybody? Here we
What's
go.
up?
Here we are.
Living the life.
Oh, living
How's
the
it
vida
going?
loca.
Living.
Yes. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Misty. Steve, you didn't fill the hole. We got merch on, and you didn't even fill that hole behind you.
I know. That's so he can send me another board to fill it.
Oh, so I wore the shirt to suck up a little bit.
You know, it's funny. I almost wore my Talking Board Historical Society shirts, but I was like, nah, that's too much.
You would have had some serious doo-doo on your nose with that shirt.
I can't promise you he's going to behave. Merch is a wild card.
You do realize this is Booze and Booze.
That's what I mean.
I've never talked to him, but I hear he's a lot of fun.
Well, he's backstage, I think, right now, listening to us talk about it.
Alyssa, Matt, John, what's up?
What's up, John? Yeah, John, I tagged Logan because he had actually asked for a tag in it, so that's why I tagged him.
How was y'all's Thanksgiving? Did it look
was
a little
good.
different this year?
I worked.
Did you?
I don't want you stealing this shirt, Aaron.
Did you get that holiday pay?
I did.
There you go.
Hi, Sarah.
Yeah.
My Thanksgiving was wonderful. How was yours, Kenna?
It was good. I went down to Alabama and hung out with my family at the oh no, we didn't go to the hunting camp this year. We went to my grandmother's house this year. It looked a little different. Every year we go to our hunting camp and we hang out on this big pond in the middle of nowhere. It's beautiful. It's like right down the road is this hidden 1800, like this really old Revolutionary War graveyard, and not 1800s, that would be 17s, but whatever. Yeah, anyways, it looked a little different this year, but I still got to see my family, so.
That's good. I'll be right back. I hear my dog chewing on something, and I don't know what it is. I'll be right back.
Dustin, Kyle, hello. Ashley, hello. Sarah, I forget which prize pack did Sarah win? We went over this not long ago, did we not, folks? Did we not talk about?
Matt, we're talking. We have some serious conversation, Matthew and I, for later.
We do. It's very, very serious.
No, with Matthew Fioli.
Oh,
we were talking just prior to this show. We were talking about
I
the
thought you were
red
trying
and
to use my
green
government name for some reason. I was like, what have I done? What's up, Doug? Sarah,
You're
we're
not
gonna
the
get
only
on top of that
bad
whole
guy.
prize thing. I don't know. But should we bring in our guest? My Thanksgiving was delightful.
Not too much.
I've eaten so much. I was literally just woofing down more turkey right now. So
Turkey's the best, especially leftover turkey.
Mm-hmm. Well, my friend Katie, who usually watches, she ain't here yet. She wound up bringing me a plate because she knew I didn't have any leftovers. Because when I don't cook, I don't have leftovers. And I said, I'm going to save that for Wednesday when I have 3 minutes to get ready for this.
Yep. That's how it always is too. I've been sitting there all night waiting, and then I was like, I need to get food at like 7:45. I decided to eat food.
I get home at 7:45 and I take out the trash. I cook food, get this thing. And tonight I had to get all this going. But it's all gravy. We're here. It's all turkey gravy.
We're here.
Hi, Bambi. All right, let's ready to rock. Steve, why don't you do the introductions? You're going to do this man some service.
All right. We are going to be chatting with Robert Murch tonight. He is the chairman of the board, head of the Talking Board Historical Society, the world's leading collector on all things Ouija. He's basically the Ouija godfather. Just a good dude. So we're going to be chatting with him.
All right. That's a little more gusto next time, but that works.
If you guys have questions,
little flat on your delivery.
Little flat on the delivery. Yeah, Rick. Yeah. Rick Schreck here. So Rick Schreck is in the chat. Quick. He is the creator of Ouija. Yes, he's the one to blame for 2020. Rick Schreck is the creator of Ouijazilla, the world's largest Ouija board from last year. So everybody blame 2020 on Rick.
Yep. All right, so now without further ado, and from Steve's riveting introduction, here we have Robert Murch.
Hey, everyone.
What's up?
Hey. Awesome to be here with you guys.
We appreciate you being here.
So wait a minute. I heard you're woofing down turkey. So you still have leftover turkey. How can that be?
My friend brought me some leftover turkey because she heard my sad story about how I didn't have any leftovers.
Oh, okay.
Well, I've got some good friends.
You do. You have some good friends. My friends would show me, they'd video me them eating the rest of their leftovers.
Right.
Right, Steve?
That's what we would do to each other. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Matt was already giving me junk about leaving a space empty on the wall here. He said,
well, I'm glad you fixed your camera because it's not that.
He's told me I should have fixed that, but
you're just getting it ready for
the
next shipment.
Just getting it ready.
I wouldn't mind getting in on these shipments either on the subjects. I only want ones that are that have demons attached, though. Those are my style.
Yeah, we used to sell a lot of those, to be honest with you.
I believe you.
John Kozik used to sell them for us for the Talking Board Historical Society, but then they started to become a thing. Like everyone wanted to see them, and now we do exhibits all over the country, and these things are like part of them now. So you'll have to deal with him if you wrestle one out of his arms or something.
I've got a few that I've caught in the wild. That's like I always give Steve a hard time. Steve's always trying to wheel and deal something behind the scenes with me. I'm like, dude, I like to find mine in the wild somewhere. That's the fun for me.
It is. I agree with you. I have some props of things as we'll talk about stuff. And Steve, your intro was great.
Oh, thank you. See? Not too bad. Matt likes to give me shit every week.
You know what though? You like to take it. You take it better than anybody.
I was going to make a joke about him taking it, but I'll just leave it right there.
They write themselves, don't they?
It's early. It's early.
Yeah, it is early.
I went for a triple IPA tonight, so let's see what happens.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So what have you been up to? I know you've been dealing with some stuff, but I'm sure you're keeping busy with the Ouija world.
Yeah, I had back surgery earlier this year, and it was basically a disaster, an infection. It just went on and on and on. It all happened around the same time as COVID, which made it like messier than it normally would have been. And so that was bad. And then recently we had like a little COVID scare. We thought we were exposed to it. And it turns out we actually tested negative for COVID, positive for the flu. So yay. So it was about a week of feeling super shitty. I was just like, what have I done in a past life that has caused this?
Yeah. There's people coming in with Matt's accent already.
Didn't take long.
No.
Isn't it
So,
funny?
I know
people are hoping it's the flu. Like nobody wants the flu. But
everyone praying for the flu now.
Yeah.
No, it's like please flu. But we got our flu shot because I have to, and it was bad. It wasn't the worst. I mean, it didn't progress the way that they tell people it does. So I was we're both very lucky. I think on Friday we're out of quarantine, but I've been quarantined since February. No joke. Right. I've been quarantined since February. So it doesn't matter. It was like extra quarantine.
But he's got like the coolest room in the world to quarantine in, so it's fine. He's got like the coolest. I spent like 6 hours a day down there when I came out.
I know, and you definitely left your mark because when I turned on the black lights, I was like, "Whoa!"
I believe that. You haven't done that at your place yet, right, Steve?
No.
Good, don't.
Yeah, because you're in there handling them all that day.
Now you know what that blank spot was.
Yeah, that was the one. Well, Matt has a cool collection, and Matt's got me beat by far on the coolest find in the wild when you found that barn that time.
Well, see, that Murch knew about the cablegraph before I even knew you.
Ah, okay.
Because I reached out to Murch prior to that because I knew he was the expert in the Ouija world, and then he got me in touch with Gene and Brandon. And people wanted to purchase the cablegraph, which won't happen because I want to keep it.
But if you do, you know where it's going.
I know which group to post it in. That's for sure.
Yeah. Good for you. eBay. That's where you do it. You really want.
I wouldn't even know how to put a value on something like that.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to. Just let everyone else do it for you.
Fair enough.
That's true. eBay's a scary, scary place nowadays, though, for boards especially.
It really is for collectors. We have this even in our own collectors group. There's this battle of if you're going to resell boards, we don't want you to inflate the price. Yeah, everyone's going to make money. That's just a way of our world. But it stinks when people take advantage of that and they really gouge the prices because then there's this inflated sense of what this board is worth and it's not worth it. And so they're stuck with a collection that is worth, like they paid way more than it's worth. And as we've noticed with a lot of collectors, they may stay in it for a year or two. It's the test. If you pass 2 years, you're going to stay a collector. A lot of times, more often than not, we lose the collectors within that year to 2 year. And then they go to sell it for the exact price they sold it. And it's like, sucker.
Good now.
Watch the price go down. And so the biggest problem is it's in every collecting area. It's like this, but we really try to keep them down so that everyone can collect. Like I have a lot of stuff, but I don't want to take that stuff away from other people. If I get a board that's rare and I already have one, then I get that to someone else. I don't want to. No, I mean, what's the point of sitting on them? The fun is being able to show someone and say, "Look what I got," and then someone can compare it. And or sometimes it's fun to go and boo boo, stick your head in doo-doo.
Well, welcome back, Kenna.
So there's I realized that I left all my laundry right there, and I was like, "Dang it! I left my drink in there." So I didn't want to just leave my pile of clothes on display because I was like, "Oh God, what if there's underwear or something?" So, and then I realized I don't even have a drink. So then I just had to grab fruit snacks because I was stressed. And here we are.
There we go.
Look at that.
Well, that's like, see, Rick just said, see many collectors pay $1,000 for $300 board, and that's the thing. Like, when people put them on eBay or anywhere for, this price that's ridiculous, if somebody really wants that board and they're willing to pay whatever for it, and then they buy it for, $800 when usually it's going for $200, now everybody else who's going to sell that board is going to price it at $800 because that one sold it. And now it's just a mess for everybody.
Yeah. And we try to tell people like, hey, a board is only worth what 2 people are willing to pay for it on eBay. The person who wins and the person right below them who bid it up. To their thing. So it takes 2 people to tango. It takes 2 people to bid on eBay. And when I started collecting in 1992. And when I was collecting in 1992, I think 1997 is when eBay came. And I was working at Fidelity Investments. So I was helping the analysts who were covering the tech. So I got an account right away. And I mean, I was buying stuff for like $10, $15, the same as you find it outside in the wild. You get an old Kenner board for $15. Yay. Now I go back and I'm finding those old files and I'm like, holy crap. Like, so I will make out like a bandit when I kick off and my husband sells everything I own, he's going to be super rich.
Hey, Gary's set. Gary's loaded. He's ready
for a lot of this stuff. Exactly. And to be honest with you, a lot of this stuff just can't be sold because they were gifts. If you look behind you, I think, let's see if I do this right. So that right there, wow, I'm doing pretty good because it's reversed.
Way better than me.
I can be like a weather person. Yeah, I could go be like a meteorologist. That's a stencil that was given to me by the Folds that made Ouija boards from 1897 to 1901. And so a lot of these gifts were given to me. And then let's see if I do this right. Ooh, there it is. And this hard to see right there is the first printing plate from Parker Brothers. So there's some things that there is no value because they were a gift, Gary will find the value, no doubt.
Steve and I like gifts.
Yeah, Murch has all these great things, and as Matt came in and said he didn't steal anything out of my room when he took a picture, I had to not buy a U-Haul truck when I was at Murch's to try not to load everything out of his house into a U-Haul truck or from his storage units and all this other stuff. I got to see some things that, are amazing that people only dream of having. And I got to hold them in my hands, and he's telling me to pick up like the Esperitos and the Volos. And I'm like, I don't want to touch anything. And he's just like throwing them at me. And I'm like, I don't want to touch anything. Like, I don't want to break anything. And he's like handing me all these like one of a kind things. He's like, oh, this was on William Fould's desk in his office. And I'm like, I'm not even going to look at that because I don't want to break it.
And you know what? It's just stuff. I think that's the biggest thing about this is it's stuff that I love and other people love, and it just shouldn't. I hate to see it when this stuff turns into like you have it, I don't have it, I want it. Like it's all just, we built a community a long time ago, this Ouija collectors group, that the core of it are seasoned people who help newbies who come out and try to teach them about how we share and how you find an extra one. And Steve has helped find me a million boards. I mean, he thinks I've over traded to him, but he's been so great as a new collector, not wanting to just grab. He's been very like, hey, I found this. I know I saw something where you said you were interested in it. Do you want this? And you can just take it from here. And that's the kind of people we want in this collectors group, because the old type collecting was me, mine, disappears. goes into my collection. You will never see it. It's for me. I don't believe people own information, and every board has a story. Every board has a little clue as to who made it, and someone else has a board that might have the label. I don't have the label. So I post it and the person shows it. Well, mine has the label. Oh, who made it? Oh, perfect. Now we know. Now we can go start looking and find out what date it came from. And so we all work together. And that's the biggest thing to me, is that the group is a community, you know, and I've been, I have checked out of the community for probably about a year and a half, almost 2 years, because of my back. So I've been in the hospital quite a bit. And so I've been on even more drugs than I am tonight, which is crazy. I don't remember much of the time, but I do have a good ghost story for you later if you want to get to a ghost story.
Of course, we want to get to a ghost story.
Like, yeah, you know, you've done all this Ouija boards, and you're known for the Ouija boards, but you've been on, you know, Paranormal Lockdown, and you've been on these shows, so like you have just as much knowledge on the paranormal, and you investigate and you go out all these places, and you're friends with Nick and, you know, all these great people, and you got thousands of stories about paranormal stuff. Well,
I've done it for too long. I'm old. I'm so old that I don't have to shave my head as much as I used to.
Hey, I'm on my way there. And I think I pointed this out. You said you started collecting in '92. I'm pretty sure I talked about this when I was out there. That was a year before I was born.
Yeah, that makes me feel awesome. I feel so, oh, yay.
It's like, thanks, Steve.
It's cool though. That's cool. And you tell me the stories about when you're going out, you know, to garage sales back in the day, and you're finding, you know, whoever found the black diamond planchette in a junk box at a garage sale or something. You know, it's stuff like that just doesn't happen anymore because everything's on eBay now. It's crazy.
And unfortunately, we'll probably see more of that for a while until there's a vaccine and people are out really flea marketing again. I say that if John Kozik is somehow watching this, he never stopped. That man would put on 5 masks if it meant that he could still go out and buy a board in the wild. He actually, so John Kozik is one of my best friends along with Rick, and he helped me find a board. I got up in the morning. I was not feeling good. It was in the middle of the flu shit, and I was just like, ugh, like. And I got 2 messages, one from this woman I haven't spoke to since like 2009, and another message from John. And this woman's like, hey, I found this board. And she's the one who makes those mystifying mints. Have you ever seen them before? Mm-hmm. They sell them at like Spirit Halloween and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I talked with them when they were making those. They just wanted some input as to like make sure they were right. I don't know anything about mints, but I guess I helped with a little tin. And she hit me up and said, I found this board and I got it for a song. And I was just wondering if you know anything about it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a board I don't have. I'm really interested in it. Meanwhile, John is in Salem, right where she is, like 15 minutes away from her. She's like, well, your friend can come pick it up right now. I'm like, John's like, I'm already on my way. I'm like, oh my God. Like, you know, so before I got out of bed, which takes me a little bit because of my, it was already in John's possession. John already took pictures. John already had it. John was probably packing it up and sending it to me. And so it just makes me laugh because he's one of those go-getters, which is, you know, as the treasurer of the TBHS, we are very happy to have him be a go-getter.
And that board is, if it's the one you were showing me the other day, it's...
Yeah, let's see if I...
Oh, don't do it. Oh, God, no.
Yeah, I got a few boards in case you guys want to see some things that I like or...
You posted about that, didn't you? That transaction?
Yeah.
I did. Okay.
So, oh, look at it. Ooh. God. That's another one you're going to like force me to hold next time I come back out.
Steve,
that's not what I'm going to force you to hold. I'm totally kidding. I do not sexually harass anyone.
He does not. That is true. I can vouch for that.
We do have a question from one of our viewers and one of our former guests, Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
Paranormal Sarah says, planchette question, plastic versus gemstones. So.
Bedazzle, you mean?
No, like back in the day, didn't they originally start like obsidian or some form of crystal before it became a plastic piece made, you know, thrown in a box?
Well, the talking board, which Ouija is one of, is basically an American invention. So that goes back to like 1886 was the big date where it explodes on the scene. But we know in the 1870s they were using them. We know that they were very close to a talking board right out of the gate in 1848 with the Fox sisters. But that's really the earliest we have. So the earliest we have are people using their finger and a pencil and pointing to cards and asking the spirits to knock as they moved it around the cards and hit the right letter. So that was the Fox sisters in 1848. They were really close. So, you can use anything. So whatever you think works, whatever you like, whatever you're into, that's what you should use, because that's how you'll have the best results. Personally, the plastic doesn't bother me because it reminds me that what's going on with the Ouija board is me. Like, plastic isn't magical anymore. We've had plastic for a long time, so I'm not really amazed by it anymore. And I know there's nothing mystical about it. So what's happening with the Ouija board is inside of you and communicating with something else. So to me, plastic just reminds me it's just plastic. It's just this is just the telephone we're using. But if gemstones and if you're using gemstones, I want to know your address. Like, where are you? And how many do you have?
Casey, I don't have any for sale. Steve tried to railroad me last time I was with him too. I don't buy any.
That is not true. The last one I sold to you, I sold at the exact cost I bought it for.
I know.
We were sweating to death in Salem, actually. So we also had a question from Rick. He said, let everybody know how much you paid for the metal fold board.
Okay, so the metal fold board, I got in trouble for it. This is one of the few times I've gotten in trouble with my husband. I don't know what year this was, but it was a long time ago. So it's probably 98 to 2004, I would guess. And I was working at Fidelity.
Who is that even?
And we get home from or we're coming home on the train, and that's right. And because this all happened like in front of a lot of people, and all of a sudden my husband checks the voicemail back when we had like home phone and voicemail and crap. And he's like, the credit card company, and said that you put $500 on PayPal. And I was just like, and
I don't know who that is.
I was like, oh my gosh. So I had to fess up to him and said, look, this just happened really quickly. It's $500. Okay. That metal electric full board is worth thousands of dollars at this point, and very, very rare. We don't see many of them, and they're fun. And there's two different versions, as we figured out now. So it just was a funny thing. At $500 back then was a lot of money. It is like the lower medium amount of a board that might be considered rare-ish. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, and it is. It's like you said. I had a conversation with John when we were out there in, I think, January this year. We were talking to him. It was me, John, my wife Sid, and Mark and Deanna, who from the Collectors Group. We had all gone down to Salem and we met up out there, and John was talking to us about the electric mystifying oracle and how he wouldn't sell it for any number that people could present, because it's not about the money at that point. It's the history of it and how, like you said, the rarity, but it's not a rarity of I have it, you don't. It's I've always wanted one of these. It's like, that kind of thing. And for it to go for, like you said, $500 back then, and that be a crazy amount of money for a board, it's interesting. Because boards, like you said, now can go for $500. We see boards go for over $1,000 on eBay all the time now.
Yeah, easy. And I don't know who those people are.
That's my dad. My dad just commented and said it's great to meet the stranger.
I don't know who that crink moron is, but
that's what I was just catching up on. I was wondering what Tori was talking about, and then I was reading it.
Yeah. And my dad's just saying it's great to finally meet the stranger I flew across the country to stay with, and he doesn't even think you're strange at all. So there you go.
I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt you. There's someone.
They're being rude.
I see those. I can't block them because I don't have the YouTube thing. So
I don't either.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll say something interesting.
I'm wondering who Jenna is.
I just blocked them. They're out of here.
Oh, there you go. Bye.
Thank you.
It's probably Mike.
Probably was. But like, bye, Alicia.
Talking about our weird ass pillows.
Talking about them You're the wrong show, pal.
Oh, we got a question from Logan. Favorite board in your collection?
I'm so glad you asked. I just happen to have this handy. So the favorite board in my collection is this board right here.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty.
Yeah, and it's on the back of a Ouija Novelty Company, Kendrick Novelty Company Ouija board. And the reason I like it so much is I saw this board in 1997 in another collector's wall. We didn't know what the Espirito was. We didn't know who invented the Ouija board. We didn't know so many things that are current today. So this board said Espirito trademark. Ooh, cool. I spent literally a year flipping through in the library the government section where the patents are, because it wasn't able to search it. You can just punch in something and look it up like you can today. That's how old I am. I'm like paper old, or like dirt old. I don't know, but you'd have to look through them. And I literally, as I hit one day, I found who made an Espirito. And it said it was the W.S. Reed Toy Company, and that it was like a version of a planchette. And we were like, whoa, that was big news. Well, who are they? What are they? Why is this on the back of this board? It shouldn't be. And in fact, my favorite board is someone's rendition of merging a Volo board, which Charles Kennard would go on to do, the Espirito board, and a ouija. They kind of literally took 3 boards and merged them into one, and we don't know why. No idea. What's neat about it is we didn't know. It had been forgotten what an Espirito board was. It was forgotten what a Volo board was. Someone already knew what those were a long time ago. It was very real to them, and they made this board. And it could be the founders. It could have been them at the factory. It could have been someone playing around with. Once they took hold of the name, could they just use it? We don't know. And the reason why it's one of my favorite boards, it's a mystery, and it's a lesson in patience, because it took me over 20 years to get that board. And it wasn't something that was like on my mind. It turned out eventually this person was willing to start selling things from their collection. And I was like, hey, remember that board? That's my favorite board. But honestly, the truth is, and I say this to everyone, my favorite board is the next board, because the next board is the next mystery.
What's one board that you've seen like evidence of, whether it's patents or, old newspaper articles or anything like that, that you haven't been able to find yet, that you really like, that's the one you want to find, the next one?
The witch board. So like, there's no doubt about it. We know that in 1886, the W.S. Reed Toy Company made what they called a witch board and sent it to President Grover Cleveland, the first, and may not be only president, but at the time, the only president who served 2 non-consecutive terms, right? President, lost, ran again, and won. So this witch board was sent to him in the White House as a wedding gift and a congratulations for becoming president. And we don't know. We kind of know what it looks like from the description. We have never seen one, because we don't know if they only made one for the president or if they made them as part of their toys. We have not been able to discover that yet. So that is the big one. Like that's the one but then there's tons of like other ones. Like, I have a board that might be the board that Helen Peters was using when the Ouija board got its name. We don't know, and that's the beauty. It's like, well, could be, right now I'm working on a little display in my office about, I was given a lot of things from Charles Kennard's great granddaughter. All the families seem to give stuff to me because apparently they just don't want it jumped to them. But Charles Kennard would say how he invented the Ouija board. And I think it's somewhat truthful. I think it's just missing some information. He says that he was sitting in his kitchen in 1886 and his mind was blank, and he decided to take the breadboard that was next to him and flip over the saucer that he was drinking out of when he was drinking coffee. And he noticed his hand was just moving across this breadboard. And that's the beginning of it. Well, what's really neat is, and all this stuff that LaVale had given me was the china. So I actually have the saucer, or could be one of the saucers that was used in that. They also gave me the family breadboard and that they had, that I had dated to 1886. So if his story is telling the truth, I might have those pieces as well, that the stuff they use from the origin. Again, these origin stories are great, but we just don't know. I mean, there's no one left there to be like, oh, that's the one. I mean, I guess I could use the Ouija board and be like, but I don't know. I count that as, 100%.
Your favorite, Steve? Got to answer the question.
Oh, my favorite that I have? I don't know, man. That's tough. It's probably either I really like the looks of the Mitchie boards. I just like how they're different pattern. That's a different design. And then I have my witchy board, which is like one of my prized possessions that I still have. I had a Rucker for a little while. That was my favorite, but I sold that off to James Freeman, who has a great collection. So I sold it off to him. He'd been wanting one for a while. But probably either my witchy board or my Mitchie board right now.
Well, that's awesome. I was hoping you were going to say one that I had sent you, but whatever.
Well, like half of my wall behind me is like things that you've sent me. there's more that you've sent me over there and over there and over there. Like you just basically you've developed my entire collection. Pretty much everything in here was yours at one point, whether it be a trade or me loading a suitcase with them and stealing them from your house or whatever, you know.
Yeah, just don't tell everyone what you did for it.
We can use our imaginations.
Exactly. And I look, you've got, I see Matt, he's good at reading. Oh, see, I have only seen that in person once. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's got some cracking, and it's obviously, so how it would work is.
But the graphics are so clear on it still.
It's crazy.
When it's flat, it works perfect.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
How old is that?
1900.
Oh, wow.
So it's got the original
directions too.
That's what's really
directions, and I also have a separate sheet of directions with hand penciled patent numbers on it and everything else.
So cool.
Oh, so you don't need both of those. You should send one to me.
You want to trade some stuff? You want to trade?
Sure.
Merch is like, yeah. Listen, Merch has so many things to trade that
it's. I'm so scared to even do anything with it. I don't know what to. It just sits on my shelf. I'm like, I don't know what to do with you.
I can tell you what to do with it.
That's the good thing we do.
Place it in a box, wrap it up. I'll send you my address.
I would honestly be scared to ship that anywhere. I feel like it wouldn't make it.
We'll just have to take a road trip. Me and you will hop in a car. We'll drive out to Merch. We'll deliver it. You know,
and then you'll go back with a lot of stuff because I'm cleaning up. You know, look, Steve saw this. I have I think it's a 20 by 15 storage unit that is floor to ceiling with bins stacked all the way to the ceiling of Ouija boards and Ouija stuff.
Oh, God.
And we spent hours in there, and every time I'd open a bin and like shit my pants about what was in there, he'd be like, "I know, isn't it sad?" I'm like, "Dude, I haven't been sad 1 minute since I got here. Like, there's nothing. It's unreal." He has just bins of like perfectly mint condition Kennard slapbacks, and I'm like, "Do you understand what I'm holding right now?" He's like, "Yeah, I think I paid like $10 for each of those." I'm like, "I hate you quite a bit, but that's fine."
What happened is over the years, you know, you get stuff, you do it long enough. Anyone would have a large collection, especially if they're like me, where you get very focused on stuff and you can't. Sorry, my dog is scratching himself.
I was trying to figure out where that was coming from.
Yeah,
like so many Ouija boards right now.
It's my piercing. No, I'm just kidding. I do not have that. I don't like them. From a different radio station, but I will gladly explain why. So no, it is not that. But you know, I have this space. So I have about 200 to 300 boards now that are in the basement museum, and I've started doing exhibits all over the house because I can't leave. Going insane. So I'm starting to do things, and Gary is like, "You can put things on the wall, but it has to look nice. It can't look crappy or cheesy or anything." And he's like, "Remember, we're gay. We have like a whole group of people we have to represent and lift up." So in that, what he didn't realize was that meant I would frame things and that he would pay for it. And so yeah, he does like how it looks. I don't think he likes what it costs. But
yeah, well, it's cool because like you have that museum in the basement where you have all the shelves and the displays and all the other stuff, and then you have your office upstairs there where you have like all the extra crazy stuff like the printing plates and all that kind of stuff and the silver planchettes and all that and the movie stuff, and like that's one of the coolest sections of your museum down there too, is the TV show and movie boards. Like you have that whole wall there in that corner of just stuff that's in movies and TVs, and that to me is super cool.
Their memories, a lot of them are projects I worked on. You know, super sad to see Supernatural go because I worked on that, and those guys are so great and so nice that I'm so bummed that it's actually finally over. It's almost been over since season 5, but it's like really over now. So they're coming to Denver. I mean, look, they're doing a tour everywhere next year if everything goes well. So they'll be here in Denver, and if they are, I'll be with them and set up a Ouija museum, and people are welcome to come out, and they're really fun. But a lot of those are signed by the people who, you know, if I worked on it, like I worked on the Exorcist TV show. So like all of those people signed it. And what was great was the actor who played Captain Howdy signed it as Captain Howdy. And then he put his name underneath it. And it's just their memories, and they're cool. They're stories.
And we're working on a board right now from a show that we've been talking about a little bit.
I can't wait to see it.
You know, we got to get that hopefully.
yes, there's quite a few shows that I am actively in, movies that I just you hound them. It takes forever because they don't, yeah, we'll get it to you. Well, you are not their first concern. They got a million other things. Shipping something off to some loser who's like the Ouija board is not high on their list of things, So usually I put it in my contract. So whenever it does any work, put it in your contract. You always get it if you do that. That's for sure. But one of the things I just recently got, so this is for Rick. I hope you're watching, and I hope his family's watching. I grabbed one of these. Look, guys, see how close I can get it. So these are planchettes that are carved and made from Rick, and they are made from embalming tables. So if you want to, someone asked if they should use the jewel. Well, you might want to use one of these. So
that's interesting.
Rick sells all kinds of stuff, so please, check him out at House 1000 Tattoos, and the Ouijazilla has it. Oh, look at that! So he's got his card up already. So I'm going to show that now. Good, that's awesome.
I got a trading card. Rick's got some super cool stuff.
Rick has some really cool stuff. Here's also, if you guys are looking for really cool things, I really like this. This is just totally like, I'm going to pimp out my friends. This is a T-shirt he did for Ouijazilla. See if I can go back, and it's got like Dante's Inferno, so you can go all the way down the levels of hell, because we all blame, and so do most of the internet, Rick for what's happened in 2020. He opened the door that caused all this stuff.
Yep.
So
I got a with Steve.
Yeah, that was the first time me and Matt ever met. Actually, was at Ouijazilla.
Oh wow! Look at that, bringing people together.
Yeah, it was, that weekend was absolutely nuts out there. There was so much. That was my second time ever being to Salem, and I'd never been there in October. So to see Salem in October before COVID, when it was crazy, it was a wild couple of days out there. And Rick's got embalming table Ouija boards coming soon.
Oh my gosh, Rick!
Excellent.
Rick's just going to take all my money.
Yes, happily.
All right, Rick, you're in this chat. Answer Sarah's question.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's see. What is this? What the question is? Why would or does a planchette change the session?
She's referring to the embalming table one.
Oh, because this is my personal belief, is that anything you use that makes you believe that you're going to make contact with whatever you're trying to, yourself, maybe some telepathy, maybe you're talking to something on the other side. Whatever you do, something like this will help you believe, because it's taken from something that's worked on the dead. And if that works for you, this is the planchette. And why wouldn't it? I mean, it's all about, you look at all those talking boards and look at all this stuff behind Steve. And what it is, the graphics reflect what Americans think is mystical, what they think is spooky. And I mean, I don't know, come on, man. Like, this is not just cool. It's super spooky. It's got look at the face on there. It's awesome. So Rick has got those. He's coming out with more stuff. He's always coming out with more stuff. T-shirts. There's also the original T-shirts from Ouijazilla we still have. So if you in Salem, which I was not there, by the way. So I was having surgery while my friends were literally putting together Ouijazilla in a hurricane.
In the pouring rain.
The weather sucked.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. So, but if you were there, then you also checked out John Kozik's Witchboard Museum in Salem. And these are killer. I'm going to show these because honestly, they're probably the coolest T-shirt I've seen in a while.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, I like them.
So yeah, so you can get those too if you connect to him on Salem Witchboard Museum on any social media, from pretty much Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. He's everywhere now. And the same thing with Rick. We'll ask Rick, if you tell us right now, should they go to the Ouijazilla page? Should they go to the House of 1000 Tattoos? Or is there a new page we don't know about? In a second. But anyway, yeah, it's really cool to see. Like when I started it back in 1992, I mean, there were 3 or 4 of us that we knew of. And they not everyone wanted to talk. They weren't all young, I mean, I was young back then. And I wanted to talk to people. And it was really cool. I used to have to travel to each person. Like, the collectors didn't like each other. Even if they knew about each other, it was like, oh, fuck that person. Sorry, can I say that on this, or are we okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, whoops. Anyway, no. And I was like, look, I'm not getting in the middle of some collector war. I like this person. I'm going to be friends with. If you want to be friends with me, cool. If not, next. and eventually what happened was all of a sudden people became friends and started to trust each other. And Rick was one of those original people who I met, I think, on some Yahoo group at the time, which devolved into collectors hating each other and threatening each other and all kinds of stuff. So in time, the group was ready to have a collectors group and then to create the Talking Board Historical Society. And all those things happened over time. It's just trust is not, you can't just give trust away, especially for people who are untrusting. And I think, what we try to do all the time is just talk to people and answer questions and entertain and, just try to get the word out. It's a really lost art. I think we're seeing a renaissance in it. There are so many talking boards right now for sale. Some of them look really cool. Some of them look horrific. But no, A for effort, man. I don't care. If you're making one and you're selling one, I'm happy because likely it will end up in my collection at some point and we'll tell that story.
Well, you had that run. You made boards for a while. You've been there. You've done that.
I know it's weird. I never talk about it. It's actually one of the coolest accomplishments, if anything I've ever done has been known as accomplished. We made Critique, which was the spirit board from Salem, Massachusetts. So it was the first board that was really made, and we integrated Salem into it. We actually worked with Destination Salem and the tourism department and included brochures from local places inside the board. So when you opened it up, you really got the Salem experience. It was inviting you to come to places in Salem. And I lived there for many, many years. So ironically, I didn't get to go to Salem when it was done, and I had lived there. So it's kind of a bummer.
Well, and the boards are super cool. And now they're going for like $80, $90 a pop all over the internet. Now they're going for decent money.
If only Critique made that much money when I did it. And that was, I think, 2000 to 2005. We had 5 or 6 runs. We made it into Newbury Comics, Spencer Gifts, Toys R Us. We were everywhere. We were just it just started to really blow up when we realized that we would have to quit our jobs at Fidelity Investments. And we were like, I don't know if that's a good idea. It was not a good idea. We were really smart and we didn't. But I have to do a whole Critique display because we did that. And it got on, it was my first TV show, thanks to Gene Orlando from the Museum of Talking Boards. He threw me what he said was going to be awful and go ahead and do it. And so I was like, I'll do it. Well, it was Penn and Teller's, what's the name of the show? Now I can't remember it. It'll come to me. Rick will probably write it in a second.
Not the Bullshit Show, is it?
Bullshit, exactly. So we were on the first season of Bullshit. And actually, Rick has the Bullshit board that Penn and Teller used on it. They sent it to me. Rick always wanted it. And I think it was 2012, 2013, we did an exhibit in the Baltimore Museum of Industry where I kind of brought presents for all the different collectors who had been really good to me. Just wanted to thank them. John Kozakor I became really good friends with. I really fucked over on a deal. I didn't know it was him. And you think when you do really shitty stuff, you're never going to run into these people. They're never going to be your friends. So I did this a couple of years, and then I'm talking to him, getting to know him, and he's like, "Oh man, I really want this board." And he sends me a picture, and I'm like, "Ooh." I know that board. And he's like, yeah, this guy, I bought it on eBay, and then they said they sold it to someone who was willing to pay more. And I was like, so of course I had to give it to him because it was like, that's karma that I don't want. Yeah. So I brought it to him. He still has that in his collection. I was just like, I'm so sorry, that was me. And to this day, we kind of have a rule amongst the collectors and the collectors group that once it's sold, you don't make offers to try to steal it from other people. It's just lesson learned. Yeah, big time.
No, now you said you had some ghost stories to go with yours. So I'm assuming you actually use your boards, unlike Steve.
I have to play at conferences that I speak at, or if they have me do things. They just all want to play with the Ouija guy. So he must be haunted. He's got so many boards, So I do play. I have a ghost story that has nothing to do with Ouija boards. Ish. I mean, it doesn't have to do with playing them. It has to do with what happened to me. So in 2004, I got really sick after an operation, similar to what just happened. So I have to set the stage. We got to go back in time to 2004. And same-sex marriage had just become legal. My husband and I were one of the first same-sex married couples in the country legally. And it was a big deal. Oh, it's great. My husband keeps pointing out that I had this tumor that was growing on the side of my jaw. Seriously, I didn't care. I didn't notice it. And finally, Gary's like, you can see it in pictures. It's gross. So I was like, okay, well, I suppose I'll go in and get it done. I'll get it taken out. No big deal. It's supposed to be nothing. They take it out. It was nothing. That's great. But I ended up getting a staph infection, and it went into sepsis, and I was really, really sick, and I was very close to dying. And the doctors told me they wanted to know if I saw, or like if I was having any weird visions, or if I saw anyone that was dead. And I'm like, it's not anyone that's dead. Like, I don't want to die. Why are you talking about this? Like and they're like, well, to be honest with you, we're not going to say why or how or whatever, but we know that people, when they're very sick, they're close to crossing over, they tend to see dead people. That could be your brain. That could be someone dead. We don't care. We just know it's definitely a sign that things are not going the right way. Okay, good enough. That scared the shit out of me. I was like, okay, I'll let you know if I see any dead people. Sure.
That's so random that they would say that, though.
Right.
Here it is.
But then you'll hear more of this. You have to get really close to death in the hospital to have these conversations. So be happy you've never heard of this stuff before. So I'm sitting there, and in comes my grandmother with her walker. My grandmother died 4 years before, and I was, in dreams when you see people who are dead, it's like they're not dead. The timing is like they're real. They're still here. This was, what are you doing here? Like, you're dead. And so I was very well aware of her having passed away. And we talked for a little bit, and she just said, look, you need to wake up and tell these people that you aren't on the right medicine. And I'm like, oh, Grandma's like so bossy. And I'm like, Grandma, you know a lot about a lot of things, but I don't think you know a lot about medicine. I'm pretty sure I don't ever remember that. And she grabbed my arm really hard and said, wake up. And I was like, and I woke up and was like, oh, they told me to tell someone if I saw someone dead. And that was pretty much it. I told them, and it turns out I was on the wrong antibiotic, and I was getting much worse. And so because I did that, or she told me, they fixed it. And I'm here today talking to you. So again, I'm not even going to tell you. I've never pondered whether that was really my grandmother. Was it my projection of my grandmother? Because in my brain, I would have listened to her. We were very close. And so my brain could have created something that I would have paid attention to. I don't know. Who knows?
I think there may be something to that, because I dealt with death and dying.
Gramps was checking in on you.
Yeah. And we were very close. I was her favorite, if my brothers are like watching. So we were very close. And then, fast forward to 2020. I had an operation on February 6th, and it was an 11-hour operation. And it goes up there with the precautions of an organ transplant, because they literally fused my spine from like the middle of my shoulder blades to the crack of my ass. I'm not kidding you. They literally split me where the good Lord split me. I was like, holy shit. But anyway, another time. There's pictures out there.
I've seen those pictures. It doesn't look good.
It's literally like I fell out of my skin. It's not a good look. But I got home, and I was in the hospital for like 9 days, and most of them were in the ICU. And I finally got home, and I started out okay, and every day I got worse. And by the time I got to my birthday, which was February 20th, and yes, I'm plugging my birthday in case people want to send me things or whatever. We have a PO box. No, I'm kidding. So you get to my birthday, and I'm feeling horrible. Like, I mean, so bad that, everyone wants to throw a birthday party for me. I don't want to see anyone. My parents came over, and I was like, I literally in the middle of their dinner was like, I'm going to throw up. And I crawled up the stairs to my bed, and I went to sleep. And I heard Gary come in, and he was like, I'm sorry, I wish you felt better. And, I'm literally on medicine every 4 hours. And I mean, buckets of medicine, all kinds of crap, not just painkiller stuff, but antibiotics and like all stuff. And every 4 hours. And I went to sleep, and I see my grandmother, and it was like, oh, and I was not doing good. So I knew this was not a good sign. I was just like, oh, just like that. I remember being like, oh crap. And like my grandmother's like, that's not nice to say. And I was like, well, I kind of have a feeling you don't have a lot of good news right now. Right. So she was very angry. She was like, you need to wake up right now and get to the doctors, like right now. And I was like, wow, angry grandma. And she was not an angry grandma. She was a nice grandmother. And she was really, again, she grabs my arm and says, wake up. And I lurch up out of the bed. And I've got like all those drains hanging out of me. It's just gross. Like, it was just a bad time. And I wake Gary up, who is snoring and probably hasn't slept since my operation, and I have to wake him up and I'm like, I don't feel good. And I think we should check my temperature. And so he wakes up, it's like rubbing his eyes, gives me the thermometer, and he looks at it and he's like, And he's rubbing his eyes, and then he turns the light on. I'm like, oh. And then he goes in the bathroom and he's like, you need to read this. I don't think this is right. This is broken. It was 105.9. And I didn't know it went up that high. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I was like, oh, this thing's totally broken. Look, truth is, I was super drugged up. And every time I would turn out of the bed, I would knock all the shit off the table. And I'm like, I probably broke the thermometer because I've knocked everything else off the table. And so I'm like, well, you know what? Try it yourself. And if it gives the right, temperature for you, it'll be great. If not, we're in trouble. So basically, he tried it. It was 98.4. We knew we were in trouble and called 911. The shit show started, and off we go back to the hospital, where I was very, very, very not good. Like that was a very touch and go. So they say. I have to be honest with you. I didn't feel like I was close to death. I felt like I was very sick. So sick I couldn't talk or answer people. I mean, literally was just nodding at people. I just didn't have the energy to do it. But my grandmother, both times I've almost died, she has been there to wake me up or something. So again, leave it up to all of your viewers to decide whether that was my grandmother or whether that was me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
That's awesome. I think there's a lot of truth to that, because I've taken care of people at end of life for like comfort care and that kind of thing. And a lot of times, I would say probably more often than not, they would talk to family members that have already passed. Mm-hmm. They would like look in the corner of the room and they would hold a conversation like we're having right now. Yeah. And so, yeah, I really think that there's a lot to that, for sure.
It scares me because my grandmother passed away. We were very close, and she came back from Florida, found out she had stomach cancer, and she went very quickly. Like within a month or two, she was gone. And every night I would come down and talk to her in the dark, like I used to when I was a little kid. And I would walk in with her, and she would say, I can hear them, but they can't hear me. Like I'm talking to them, and I'm like, who? Like, what kind of drugs do they have you on? And she's just like, I can see my parents and over there, and same thing. So, when by the time the night before she passed away, she was full on talking with them, full on conversations. They could hear her. And again, the hospice people, bless you for the work if you do with people who are passing away. I don't know how I did it with one, and it was just, yeah, wow. So
I can't do that. That is not my nursing forte.
Wow, we really brought it down. It was like, whoa.
That was good timing for that.
Wasn't it? Look, it's the Ouija board, man. It always works out.
So
busy street.
Going off of that with your experiences in the paranormal stuff, are you a believer in the Ouija board, or are you more like ideomotor effect or people moving it and you don't trust them? What's your gut say on the Ouija board?
All of those things. Like I have played the Ouija board when it has been my friends totally screwing with me. Everyone has. Like, I mean, look at my friends. Look at Steve. No, I'm just kidding. Like, I mean, of course someone's going to put, I would do it. It was done to me when I was little, especially by my stepsisters. I have seen it when it is clearly ideomotor response, when it is definitely your subconscious leaking out. And then I have seen it when I can't explain what's happening. Does that mean it's a ghost? No. It's hard. This is a hard conversation, because what we're really asking isn't, can you talk to the dead with a Ouija board? It's, can you talk to the dead? Because if you can talk to the dead, then it would be simple to talk to the dead through a Ouija board, because it's easy, it makes sense, and it's something that anyone alive today would know how to do, right? Like, I mean, I always think it's crazy. It's like we assume that you're dead. You somehow know how to alter the magnetic field to get a K2 meter to go off. I'm like, what? I don't even know how to work one of those now, let alone when I'm dead. I'm like, geez. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we create things we believe in, and we work within that realm. And we say, K2 meters work, and even P recorders work. And so it's like once you take a step off of what you know is true to belief, it's endless. It's funny, paranormal people laugh, oh, that person's Mormon, they have special underwear, ha ha ha. Wait a minute, you're talking to dead people at night with a K2 meter. How are you making fun of their underwear? like it's all funny, and it's all not funny. You know what I mean? So to me, a ghost could be, and this is something I actively think about. I hope that really wasn't my grandmother. And this is why. My grandmother was awesome, and she did a million things, and she was always hands in something. When she died, we literally felt her spirit leave. It was just gone out of the house. She was gone, never to be seen or heard from again. I know people sometimes feel like something sticks around. This was just gone. I want her to be gone. I want her to be on to the next thing. I don't want her to be like, oh, my shitty little grandson is in trouble again. Hold on, I'll be right back. Really do something. I don't want that to be true. I want what I'm hoping it might be is that your spirit is all kinds of things, and you leave pieces of it, with the things you touch, with what you do, and how you touch people and your friends. And she left part of herself with me, my memory of her, all those experiences, her helping raise me. And so what came to me is the part that was left, maybe not the whole part, but it is my projection of her. It is I almost created a ghost, and I wonder whether that's a lot of ghosts or sometimes, and I don't think it has to be all or nothing. I think who says it can't be all of those things, that sometimes it's not your brain creating it. Sometimes it's not something caught in a loop. Sometimes it's not something intelligent trying to talk to you. Maybe it's dimensional. I mean, Nick Groff talks a lot about this stuff. And you mentioned it before. I have been incredibly lucky to work with some of the best people in the field and some of the worst, which is always fun. Those are great stories too. But
and now you're stuck with us.
Look, I'm very lucky to be here. I mean, who wants to talk to me? I just still think it's funny to this day that I get gigs and that I maintain them. Or maintain friendships, for that matter.
What's your favorite location you've been to, paranormal wise? Like, what's your spot that you would love to go back to if you haven't been back to?
This is the first paranormal place I went to on purpose. Was Mansfield Reformatory, and that is actually the first place I worked with Nick. So the reason I like it is because we had so much fun. I mean, there was Chip Coffey was there. The GAC team was together still at the time. It was years before they broke up. So it was like early on in there. So it was very fun. No one cared. It wasn't like people were going to recognize anyone. Everyone was just doing it because it was fun. And that was a great time because I think Dave Schrader, 100% sure Dave Schrader was running that. And he runs events like just tight. Like if you step out of line when you're not supposed to be out of line, he will tell you where you're supposed to be. So I always laugh. I remember I was one of those people not in the right place. And I definitely thought. So it was just a great time. We had so much fun. The first ghost story first experience I ever had at a paranormal event happened at that location as well. And that story ended up in one of Jeff Belanger's books, another good friend of mine. And Dave Schrader tells it all the time because I was literally, you can tell I like to talk, and I couldn't speak. I was like, he loved that. He was like, wow, Murch is quiet. Holy crap. It took a ghost.
We have a question in the chat from Logan, who is a collector in the group here. He said, only a collector, not involved in the paranormal field, but out of curiosity, what was working with the Ghost Adventures crew on the Zozo episode like?
Awesome. That is one of my all-time favorite experiences because it is the last filming those guys did together. And I had, worked behind the scenes. Like Jeff Belanger, again, one of a really, really close old friend. And he at the time was working with them, setting up locations. And so he would always call me like, do you know a location? Oh yeah, hold on, here's a letter from someone. So I was always helping out the show behind the scenes. And yet I'd never been on the show because it never worked out. Like whenever they do a Ouija board thing beforehand, I was just not available. I was doing something else, whatever. This time I was available and I got to not only work behind the scenes on it, but I got to work with them. And the experience was crazy because I cannot tell you, it was the weirdest episode and you felt it. It just, again, I'm a skeptic that isn't going to discount experiences. But that was a weird one. But it was great because after the show, me and all the guys, we went, it was near Oklahoma City. And so we went in town and we just like hung out at the bars and talked and caught up. And at this point, we're like, people are getting married, they're having kids. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe you got married. When are you going to get divorced? It was like that kind of stuff. And so Logan, I know probably not the answer you're looking for, but it was really cool simply because of the people that I worked with. And I have Danny Clark, who is in the collectors group, and I actually sent him the board we used. Everyone signed it and sent him the board, and then he sent it back to me. So now I still have it. So someday it'll end up. It probably should end up in the Salem Witchboard Museum.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there somewhere that you would like to go that you haven't been yet?
Everywhere. Everywhere. I've been so lucky that I've been sent to Australia to talk about the paranormal. I've been sent to the UK, Paris. I mean, it's just, I want to go everywhere. I want to talk. And the best part about the paranormal community is that it's merging. When I first started, it's like, oh, the UFO people. That's what the paranormal people say. Oh, cryptid. Like all this. Now, like it's for a number of reasons, but they're all together. And I love what Jeff says. Jeff says, oh, look, one person's cryptid is someone else's ghost story, is someone else's UFO. So we don't have all the answers. And I think what I like what's happening is that community is really open. You tell a story and people are not like, bullshit. Like they're like, no way. Even if they're thinking in their head, oh, no. It's very open. It's very accepting. And I have fought hard for acceptance for the Ouija board in the paranormal community. And so to see me get invited to places, show the board, it use my expertise on a show is crazy. Because when I started and was first asked to do a conference, it was Amy Bruni, and I was doing it. It was Beyond Reality Events at the time. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but it was when the Ghost Hunters on television were doing their events. They were like the first. And they invited me to go, and I was allowed to go. I was not allowed to bring any Ouija boards, and I had to leave. Because the people who had paid for this were so concerned that I was going to bring something that I was like contagious. I was like, holy crap, if I only know about COVID, wow, I could have had some fun. But they were so concerned that then the next year I was allowed to come and stay overnight. And then the next year I was allowed to bring boards and to watch people had never seen this in the paranormal community. It was just so not accepted. To use a Ouija board was stupid and, just irresponsible. And, the fastest way to get yourself opened up to possession and just a lot of uneducated, perhaps ignorant views because no one had really sat down and said, well, wait a minute. Did you know that your ancestors, the people who came before you, the early ghost hunters called spiritualists, your relatives, used to have a talking board in their little bag of goodies where you have your K2 meter? So when did this happen that all of a sudden what was once something so important became like the pariah and the outcast? And I'm not saying it's not still.
It still is heavily.
Yeah,
I go to places all the time. We don't allow them on property.
We can still have this conversation. So the people are like, you can't use it in Subway because someone did something stupid and with a Ouija board in Subway. So now there's signs that you can't use Ouija boards in Subway.
I think the Sally House is like that actually.
Sally House. I know you're not allowed to bring them to I think Rolling Hills doesn't allow them. Certain locations you're not allowed to bring them into, which I think is very interesting because like you said, they're no different than a K2 meter, but if anything, they're going to be easier and more simple for them to use. And they're going to be more used to them and recognize a Ouija board more so than a K2 meter or a voice recorder, especially somebody from the 1900s or, 1905 or whatever it is. The spirit from 1920 is going to know how to use a voice recorder, but you can't bring a Ouija board in. That to me doesn't make sense.
And we've had that conversation before on the show about how the Ouija board has such a bad rap. And I think we had spoke one time about how Hollywood has sensationalized it maybe or put because even now if
movies
you go through,
this
you go through these paranormal forums or someone's posting something about somebody I can't even remember that example we had, but we were talking to Steve about it one time on the show about somebody used a Ouija board. It was I sent him screenshots or whatever, and he was riding his bike home and died or whatever. And
I remember that.
And they blamed the Ouija board and it's gotten such a horrible rap, and it really you guys are still alive and you have tons of them.
Well, I'm barely alive.
Sorry, George.
If somebody's house was going to be haunted because of Ouija boards, it would be Murch's, and his storage unit would be levitating. You know what I mean? Like if Ouija boards were the root of all evil and demons and Zozo and all these negative things, like
you're not supposed to say his name.
Going out of his head by now.
Right. Right.
Well,
and you can't reason with them. You can't reason with people.
Well, you know what I do is, so I've done this year by year. I'm in it for the long haul, clearly. And because when I started, I had hair. Now it just doesn't even come back.
Do you think it Ouija boards? Because I'm starting to lose mine.
I think it retreats. I think my hair is just going. But what I try to explain to people is like, okay, so let's think about it logically. Let's put down the superstition part about it, which is very hard because that's like the Ouija board has earned 100% its scary reputation. And I have worked on movies that have contributed to that. So you can, thank me for scaring people or making unnecessarily, because we build on what people already believe. That's normally what I do when I consult on a TV show or movie, is try to figure out how we take what current urban legends, we call them Ouija-stitions. So any kind of superstition that has made the Ouija board kind of come about, which is like, never use the Ouija board alone. Well, that's not part of the original directions. The reason why they would say two persons, a man and a woman, preferred, is because it was a date game in the Victorian time. You have to. I'm a historian, which means if I'm a good historian, which I hope I am, I'm a reporter, and I simply report the facts. I do not tell you my opinions, and they don't even come off me. People ask all the time, "What do you believe? Don't you believe?" To this, no one still knows what I really think, because I'm careful to make sure that I don't demystify the mystifying oracle. If I just sat you down and said, there's nothing to these boards, they're just wood. Let me light one on fire in front of you. I mean, like, people would start screaming. It would be insane. So what I do is talk by talk say, look, a Ouija board is like the telephone. It happens to be the telephone we're using when we're talking to something. And so, like, if we're having this conversation right now and we're doing it through a computer, say, and at the end of this, we get into a big fight, we call each other names, we threaten each other. I'm not going to take my laptop and throw it out the window and say, I'm never going to have another one of these in my house again because I had a bad experience. But what you do with the Ouija board, so what's different about the Ouija board is we give the Ouija board power we don't give any other paranormal device, any spirit communication device, right? Because we believe that the Ouija board is different. And the minute you buy into that, that's where things start to get scary. If you treat the Ouija board as you treat your other spirit communication devices, you wouldn't think twice about it. But once you say, but what if when I used the Ouija board, it opened a portal, and now that I can see them, they can see me? What if I didn't close it right? What if I left something out here? What if I've opened, but what you've opened up is inside of you. The board is just the board. I'm not, again, saying like John Zaffis is a very old friend, and he would say, well, wait a minute, you can get attachments. Okay, possibly, but the board itself is not natively evil. It is nothing. It's just a piece of wood that someone printed letters and numbers on. It's what you allow it to be. That's scary, and that's what's super cool about them.
Murch, Sid wanted to come say hi to you.
Oh my gosh. How are you doing, Sid?
She looks like a dirt troll, she says, but
she looks beautiful. I was
thinking the same thing.
She always looks good.
Dog.
Yeah, I wish I had your hair.
His pup was scratching himself earlier. Our dog's having surgery on Friday, so we're getting ready for that. So
sorry.
She's gonna be a wreck all week, so we'll see how that goes. But she wanted to come say hi because Moy's texting you, and she likes me to go away, so she has the whole bed to herself. So she's ready for me to come visit again.
She wants to know, who's this guy who harasses you? Who's this old?
No, she's ready to go Christmas shopping with Gary, like we've talked about.
Yeah, I'm coming.
I can't wait to meet you in person.
This is 2 live sessions in a row for you, Sid. What's up with that?
I'm not going to be on next week. Sid's going to take it over.
Take over.
Thank God, the numbers will go through the roof.
That's awesome.
And we'll have company, Ken and I.
So she wants to, thank you for starting this addiction here and helping with all these boards. She loves the decorations in the house.
You're saying that and she's going like this.
No.
I told him that he can start to spread his boards throughout the house now.
I'm not granting you that.
I can't get there yet, but someday.
I have those deals with my husband, and they've broken. You can only have them in one room. You can only have them in the basement. You can only have them in the hallway. You can only have. They're everywhere now.
Now they're just spreading.
There's certain considered certain boards making their debut out, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
I've gotten her trained pretty well though. Like she's gone out to like flea markets or antique shows when I'm working, and she comes back
I keep my eye out.
and she comes back with boards and stuff, and I'm like, this is
so cute.
That's awesome.
How does your husband like? Is he a believer or a skeptic or?
He's a believer that I have a lot of them. Yeah. you know. So my husband he was raised Catholic. I was raised Orthodox Jew, which is why none of the paranormal is scary, or because when you're brought up religious, especially Orthodox, ghosts, spirits, demons, God, it's all baked into your reality. It's there. I mean, when I was little, no joke, I probably never said this on an interview before, which is I'm sure I'm going to get shit for. When I was little, and we went to an Orthodox temple. I spent half the day in Hebrew school, but it was like all day. So half the day was in English and half the day was in Hebrew. And so, I mean, this is hardcore serious. There are pictures out there that I have the curls and like all kinds of stuff. You'll never find them because I've scrubbed the internet, but I have. But they tell you God's always around you, always. And I'm like, even when you're sleeping? And they're like, even when you're sleeping. So I would take my stuffed animals and I would run them up the side of my bed, and I would only sleep on one side of the bed because I was afraid I'd roll over and squish God. I was pretty sure it was a bad thing. And so, I mean, I was like, I'm trying to demonstrate in my reality, it was all real. It was all possible. Of course there could be a ghost. Of course there could be a demon. Of course there could be whatever. It didn't matter. So it was easy to explore the supernatural when there wasn't any fear of it. It was more like a healthy respect. Like, I think that's a ghost. I'm going to go over there, as opposed to just screaming. So my husband was raised Catholic, and so was a very superstitious. But he met me in 1992, 1993. So he has only known me collecting Ouija boards. He doesn't know me any other way, which is sad. So he isn't scared of them. He never had a bad experience with a Ouija board. Sometimes I put up displays that freak him out a little bit. Like he's like, "Oh, what's that? Why are you doing that?" And I'm like, I have to explain, what the historical significance is. And that's the difference between my office, the things on my wall, or like this is like the things that are very special to me that also have a historical significance. The museum in the basement is more a lot of boards, and I'm adding a lot of pictures and photographs into it as well. But they're just two different spaces. And my office is somewhere he will come in and be like, "Ooh, I saw you put that on the wall. What's that?" So
that's awesome.
Yeah, because like the basement with all of your boards and your collection, and like you have the stacks of 3 of each board or whatever you have. You have the multiples and like the little differences about the boards, and like the long board and electromystifying oracle. And then you go upstairs and you have, like you said, it's more of the historical aspect, I think, up in your office, where it's the printing plates and the stuff that was on Foold's desk and like the one-of-a-kind planchettes. Like it's a very different display, but they're both important. You know what I mean? And like the history and Ouija. Yeah,
my goal was it was an adventure. When I first started in 1992, I what happened was I had Ouija board experiences, and I found them pretty interesting. But what clicked, what made me start doing stuff was I had a quad. I was in a quad at the University of New Hampshire, actually, and where I met my husband. And my 3 roommates wanted to rush for a fraternity. And I mean, look, I knew if I rushed for a fraternity, I was going to graduate. It was just like, not for me. But cool thing, if you have friends that are in the fraternity, you get to go. So I could go to the parties and have fun, but I could go home and to my dorm room and study and graduate. So when they were rushing for their fraternity, they got like a treasure hunt. And one of the things they had to find was on their treasure hunt was a Ouija board. And I know as a New Englander, you flea market, you yard sale, you antique every weekend. It's just something you're not looking for anything. I just would go with my dad and we just go for a drive and hit the places. And so I was like, I've seen a ton of them. When it was all over, they gave me them back. There were 10 and they were all different. And I was like, isn't there only one Ouija board? I mean, like, how can they be so different? It doesn't make any sense. So I went to, I'm sure your listeners and viewers have no idea what this is, but it was a library. And it was a building where there were books in them. And that's where you got your information from. And in every encyclopedia, whether it was Britannica, or Funkin' Wagnalls. It didn't matter. The definition or where the Ouija board was from was different in every single volume. No one agreed where the Ouija board was from. And that set me off into the journey I'm still living today, which was, where did it come from? What were people thinking when they made it? What was the real story? Who were the faces behind them? And they're all over my walls now. They stare at me. It's some people think it's super creepy. And I'm just like, when I discover something and I collaborate and we say, okay, this is real, we've now figured something out. It's so cool. But then I look up at these pictures and I was like, you couldn't have told me. You had to like make me work this hard to figure this out. Like, you're sitting right there. You couldn't have just like, but it's cool because like what we know then is nowhere near what we know now. And I'm lucky I picked up the boards that we had no idea what they were. It was like, they look like homemade boards. Oh, that's an Espirito board. We didn't know that. Thank God I picked one up when I did, like, okay. So if you're a collector, you're looking at it from the collector side, if you have the money and you get a good deal, it's worth picking something up that you're not sure about, because the gamble is low. Like, I would definitely recommend, if you have no idea what it is, do not spend a lot of money on them, because you're not sure. You could be getting a fake. We've dealt with that with someone who's faked a bunch of old boards and scammed people out of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. And I don't want to see that happen again. And so I'm very slow. Like, I am the slowest person you've ever met in your life, because
I'm pretty slow too.
I've been doing it so long.
To return messages, yeah.
Checking your texts and stuff. But,
yeah, me and Ken are on the same page with that. We're never in the chat. We never met.
In general.
I know I'll get a hold of you now. Ken, it doesn't matter. I could send a carrier pigeon to her house. It doesn't matter.
No, if you did send a carrier pigeon, that would be really cute, and I would be forced to.
Well, like, I'm slow and deliberate, and some collectors that collaborate with me, they don't like it because I don't jump on things and I don't move fast, because I have seen some really bad shit go down. And I know in researching and writing and having all of these originators' relatives still be friends with me and consider me family, it's really about the relationships that you make, and it's the journey, it's the stories. That board I just got, it's just a piece of wood. But the story of getting to work with John and this woman who I haven't seen or talked to since 2009 happened to remember me. I mean, like I wrote in this post, if I was a dick back in 2009, this woman wouldn't have called me. I mean, she would have called someone else, right? So like, it's important to be just you shouldn't be nice so that you get things. You should be nice that someone wants to talk to you when they find something. You're the first person they call when they get something, because you've made that much of an impact where you're like, you were laughing and you give me all these nice things. Like, I'm the godfather of the Ouija board. I'm not. I've been around too long. I'm old. But
what you said, like, you're deliberate with it, but you're a little slow. Because I know when I reached out to you about that one board that has the months on the bottom of it, that's in the museum now. I reached out to you and I was like, hey, I found this on Facebook. Is it worth anything? Because I think she had listed for like $65 or something. Yep. And this was great when I started collecting. I remember I said, is it worth anything? And I'm looking to you like, hey, do I buy this or not? And all you go is, it could be. And I'm like, well, like, give me, like, what do I do here? Like, give me something. And you're like, yeah, well, I need more pictures of it. You're like, where's it from? And I'm like, you're asking a lot of questions right now. I just need to know if I need to buy this or not. And then she got weird or whatever, and then ended up going to John in his museum, which is great. But it's funny because, like you said, you don't just say, oh, yeah, that's worth X amount of money, or it's rare, or it's real. You're like, well, maybe, I don't know. Who knows? I need to see more, kind of thing. Yeah. So you have all this knowledge. Like you said, you're very deliberate and very slow about things, but in a good way.
I guess you're being nice about it. I have plenty of people who don't think it's nice. Like they're like, I want the answer now. And I'm like, well, it's not as easy as like yes or no. When did they stop doing this? Well, it wasn't this date is not just, it's not a finite date. So as a historian, it's all about the details. And when I explain about the Ouija board, the reason I've been successful in opening people's minds to the fact that the Ouija board might not be the most evil thing in the world, not that they're going to play it, but they're just not so scared of it, is that I'm telling them how the Ouija board was seen in the decade we're talking about. If I talk about the Ouija board with the lens of today, I'm going to talk about something that's used in every scary movie that ever needs to either unleash a demon or have an evil spirit. That wasn't the overwhelming feeling for most of the Ouija board's life. A lot of people talk to them again because they wanted to talk to someone dead. They miss someone. And then the other thing is people just wanted to have fun. But if you were in the 1800s, death was so pervasive around you that you didn't escape it and you embraced it because you had to. So, if you're burying people, during the day, then at night you might talk to people who died. And that's why you'll see on the original talking boards, you'll see good night and good eve. Well, it's manners, because in the Victorian times, if you started to talk to someone, you would say good evening. You wouldn't just start talking to them like we do on text. We're just like, hey, go up. Like they would say like good evening. And then when they were done, they would say good night. Well, that just changed to good night, and then it became goodbye. So there's a lot of, the Ouija board is a really tough animal to get your arms around if you're not talking about a specific time or place. Because if you're talking about Ouija like big, it's different than Ouija small, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Definitely. Do you think The Exorcist is the reason that the Ouija has a bad rap? Or do you think there's multiple things that have led to the demon relation to Ouija? Or, I know a lot of people point to the original Exorcist. Is that where you think kind of like the negative spin started?
I think that's when the pendulum swung harder the other way, and the weight went like this. If we look at movies and TV shows leading up to The Exorcist, the Ouija's was getting darker, and the things people were writing about and their stories were getting darker. Originally, like even if we go back to, because I don't just collect Ouija boards, I collect all things. I want to know exactly how the Ouija board was seen every decade. So I collect every movie it's been in, every TV show it's been in, every piece of music it's ever been in, every band it's been in, from sheet music to silent movies. And in most of the early movies, it was a date game and it was a joke. It would be like, do you like me? I mean, they're Valentines, for goodness sakes. In the 1920s, there's a whole set of like different Valentines. It just, yes, people thought it was evil. Yes, religious people didn't like it, but not the overwhelming public. It just didn't have that persona. By the time it hit The Exorcist, it was ready. The pendulum was moving. And when, if you think about the Exorcist scene, they don't ever directly link her possession with the Ouija board use. That's up to the viewer to put together. They just show her, hey, mom asks, what are you doing in the basement? Oh, playing the Ouija board. Oh, where'd you find that? Over here. Oh, who are you talking to? Captain Howdy. And then the mother goes to put her hand on the planchette and it moves. That's the first thing you're like, wait, did that just move? Because it was so fast. And then they try to talk to it. It doesn't work. Oh, he must be tired. Okay. Next thing you know, she's possessed by an evil spirit, an evil demon. So that's that correlation between use a Ouija board by yourself, become possessed, just got really cemented. So no, I don't think it's the thing that did it, but it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. It was, everyone saw The Exorcist. It was all over the news. And if you were told not to see it, you probably went and snuck in and saw it. Just like I snuck in and saw Witchboard, and when I was 13 years old. So I think that it is it's the straw that broke the camel. It's the linchpin as to how we think of the Ouija board today. It is a very modern interpretation of the Ouija board.
And it's crazy that you say that, because it's like it insinuates that, like, if you play with it by yourself, then you're going to be possessed or whatever. But it's crazy how like the masses all came to the same conclusion. Like it was all the same conclusion across the board.
Well, I mean, that movie was really scary. I mean, even the Ouija movies I worked on, it's the same thing. A little girl. I mean, what's the most innocent thing you can think of? A child. Anything that can corrupt a child is scary and bad and awful. No one wants to see that at all. And so, a game. I mean, you think about what happened in 1973 when this movie came out. Ouija boards were so common. They are in everyone's closet. They're in everyone's basement. They're in everyone's attic. They're everywhere. And suddenly they're dangerous. Or suddenly you believe they're dangerous. I mean, I know for a fact, like, there are probably a lot of Ouija boards that we don't have because they were just chucked and burned and thrown out. I mean, people just, what happened, what Blatty did in The Exorcist is very similar to what Alfred Hitchcock did to The Shower, right? Like, no one was afraid to take a shower before Psycho. Just was a shower. I mean, like, unless you're dirty and you don't like showers. And what he did, making you scared to go into a shower. I mean, to this day, I hear something and I'm like, I thought no one's in the house. Gary's not here. So, I mean, it still sticks with you. It's just part of our culture now to be afraid in the shower. they did the same thing to the Ouija board in The Exorcist. They showed that it's potentially dangerous, and therefore suddenly something that was very like considered like a game, everyone's playing it at their slumber parties, is very dangerous, and especially to children. So it insinuated a whole bunch of things that changed. And I don't mean it wasn't like this, it just went like this because it had already been turning towards that. And as we see it today, it's unturning in a way. I mean, the fact that you guys are a paranormal group and you're wearing Ouija t-shirts and you have Ouija boards on your walls and you collect this stuff, that means it's changed. It's not so scary because there's no way when I started that anyone in the paranormal field would even have a Ouija board anywhere near them. Nope. Or they wouldn't admit it. And they would certainly, they might show it to you in private. Like, here's my Ouija board. And I'm like, oh, I thought you were showing me something else.
That's not what I thought it was.
Yeah, that was not the piece of wood I thought you were going to show me.
Go ahead, Kenneth.
Do you think there, or you personally, do you have a specific way for opening and closing the board? Do you think that there's something you should follow when one is using a board to communicate?
I think everyone's got a different belief, right? Like some people believe that if you say a prayer over the board and you imagine yourself surrounded by white light, that's going to protect you. Other people are very just pragmatic about it and they just feel very in control. And if something starts going weird, they sign off. So they just take the control aspect. Whatever works for you. I mean, in the Ouija movies that I worked on, we integrated that belief of saying a prayer into making a poem that says, as friends we've gathered, hearts are true, spirits near, we call to you. Okay, that didn't exist. Totally made up for the movie. I love it. It was great. I hear people to this day, since 2014 when that movie came out, I still hear people doing it in conferences. Just like we invented looking through the eye to see a ghost. Every conference I've been to, people are holding the planchette to look for ghosts. I'm like, the power of the movies and the TV shows. But to get back to your question, it's whatever works for you. What makes you feel safe and makes you feel like it's going to work better will work because you're in control and you have to have that sense of what you're going to do. And so if you're wondering, this is my advice for anyone who wants to sit down and play with a Ouija board. Get a bunch of friends. Like get 4 friends, maybe 3 friends, maybe 4. When you first start, it's not going to work well. So the more people you have at the board, the quicker it's going to start moving around and the less like, this is boring you're going to be. The other thing is write down 10 questions you want to know the answer to before you actually play. Because if you don't, when it starts moving, you're going to have 2 things happen to you. Your brain will totally go, and you're like, I can't believe this thing's moving. I don't know what this is and why this is happening. And you can't think. Or you pull your hands off that sucker so fast. You're like, nope. It moved. We're done. If you prepare ahead of time, when you're going to do it, who you're going to do it with, what questions you're going to ask, you'll see that all changes and makes things better and easier for a session.
We have a question from Mark, who knows the collectors group there. He said, how good or bad is Witchboard? I know how you're going to answer this, but how good or bad is Witchboard?
It's epic. Epically 80s. I love it. I mean, I grew up in the 80s. I can't say, again, big hair. I did have big hair at one time, but it's amazing because what Kevin Tenney, who's a good friend of mine, and so I'm sure he's not listening because he would never watch anything I do, but he's a good friend, and what he did was he took those Ouija stations from all of the different movies that had come out, the Exorcist, and he stitched them together. And he created what you believe about the Ouija board today. All of these things, progressive entrapment. Oh, if you use a Ouija board by yourself, they slowly wear you down, the spirits, until like they're using your energy and they can possess you. And that's not what he did. All of these things. And so it's a brilliant movie. If you like the Ouija board, if you collect them, you have to see the Ouija board things because those are the boards that started what you actually think directly.
So I know several people that have had crazy experiences only with Ouija boards, like they freaked me out. Something came through. It was being very like premonition-y. The things were happening. I chunked the board. Several different people where boards would come back. And so what is that? What do we think is happening, folks, is what I want to know.
Belief. Your belief is 9/10 of your reality.
So why would a board just re-show itself? Like,
So this is it's part of, we incorporated this into the movies, right? So like, Steve's like, I gotta go to the bathroom, I'll be back. So Sid, you're taking over. This is great.
Take over.
Steve, you got prettier.
Yeah. We incorporated that into the movies, right? Because that's what people believe, that they throw away a board and the board comes back. Is that real? I mean, did you witness that? No.
So no, but the people sharing the experiences, I would say, are very credible.
They believe it. This is how I approach everyone's paranormal experience. I can tell when that person believes they're telling me the truth. They are telling me their truth. How's that? They are telling me 100% that they believe this happened. Did it really happen that way? Or is that their interpretation? Did they want it to happen so badly that they've stitched that together in their mind? Because what's scarier than getting rid of something you believe is harmful to you and it's showing back up at your front door? That's almost like one of those Brahms lullabies, right? Like, this is a story. I
would pee my pants. Don't show back up if I get rid of you.
Well, you've got some friends here who might actually pick it out of the trash and shove it right on your front door for fun, so be careful. But that's the thing about these stories. They're great. Are they true? It doesn't matter. The fact that so many people believe them, that we actually took those and wove them into a story, epic. And so it doesn't matter if they're true or not. They're true to that person. That person was scared shitless. You've seen it. You've seen someone who's really scared, not like, ooh, but I mean like, oh my God. And I have talked to people, we have tons of those boards. And you know what we tell people to do? You should donate those boards to the Talking Board Historical Society. And because we'll put them on display, but not before Matt gets a chance to add them, because he apparently wants to add them to his creepy dolls, by the way, that are that are behind him.
We haven't even so much crap in this room. So much stuff.
But I love people's experiences, because that's the story of the Ouija board. Is it wrong or right? I don't know. I have played, I'll tell you, this is my kind of answer to that. It's a kind of a weird story, but in 2015, we did OuijaCon. So we celebrated the 125th anniversary of the naming of the Ouija board in Baltimore, where it happened. We put a plaque up at the spot where the Ouija board got its name, and we had the mayor issue that it was Ouija board day in Baltimore. It was also during the riots, by the way. So the Ouija board might have some power here, because it caused the riots in Baltimore along with COVID in 2020. Very powerful. But what happened there was, I was walking with, walking with Jeff Belanger and I think Dave Schrader and a bunch of other people. We were just talking, and these girls came running up to us and they were like, oh my God, we played the Ouija board. It's awful. Like, you won't believe this story. And we're like, calm down. Like, and they were genuinely scared. Again, well, I mean, it was young girls, so they were, like having a little fun, I think, but they were scared. Like, there's a difference between little girls scared and like, oh my God, scared. And they're scared. And they're saying, like, oh, you won't believe what happened. We're like, okay, calm down. Get them calm down. Get some water. And then we're like, what happened? They're like, we played the Ouija board, and the Ouija board told us how and when we were going to die. And I was like, that is awfully specific for a Ouija board to tell you. What were you asking the board when this happened? And they looked at me like I was stupid. They were like, we asked it how and when we were going to die. And I started laughing, and we were like, oh, we never thought about to tell people to think about the questions you ask. Right? If you're afraid, if dying is, and some young people, before they realize there's so many other things to worry about, really worry about that. They really worry about dying. And I forgot about that. And so, don't ask those questions. If there are questions that are going to haunt you, literally, like if the Ouija board said you're going to die in a car accident in a red car, so you literally never get in a red car for the rest of your life, guess what? You could be hit by a red car crossing the street. You can't get away from it. So don't ask those questions, because that's not the point of a Ouija board. The Ouija board experience should not scar you for the rest of your life. That's not fun.
Aaron said, what do you think about the rules of Ouija? Playing alone, keeping hands on the board at all times, and closing it. Do you think that like these rules actually apply to it, or do you think they're just like superstition?
They're based in superstition, but superstitions are based in experience, right? So someone had this experience, and then enough people believe they had it, and then it's I have a friend. Look, Rick Schreck, who's probably not listening at this point, but he created an amazing T-shirt that has the rules of the board, and he so graciously donated. Rick Schreck, by the way, is the vice president of the Talking Board Historical Society, but he's also an amazing artist, and he donated that art and that T-shirt to help bring money to our nonprofit, and it's perfect. It's so perfect. It was stolen within a week of him doing it by someone in the UK who started like mass marketing them, like on a very big scale. And so those rules are real because people believe them. So like never, always saying goodbye, never playing in a graveyard, never playing by yourself. Those were the 3 rules we played in the Ouija movies because they were supposed to originally be 3 movies. So it was going to be like, never play it by yourself, never play it in a graveyard. And the next one was going to be always say goodbye. So that's where those were going to, but they were just 3 of all the rules that you can imagine. I mean, make up anything about the Ouija board and tell someone. And I guarantee that if you do it enough, someone else is going to say it happened to them.
Rick said the rules are more of a to-do list to get the best results.
Yes. Well, that's because hopefully you will have Rick Schreck on this show, and he will tell you how he's literally spent his life existence with the Ouija board trying to open up a portal to the other side, and he would like to be possessed. It has not happened. But damn, by making Ouijazilla and all the other things he's done, that boy has tried.
I was going to say, anybody who put their entire family inside of a 400-pound planchette on a board, like they're trying something.
They are trying. Yeah. Hopefully I will get back soon to the East Coast and I'll be able to see you guys. And, hopefully by the time COVID stuff is over, my back will have healed well enough to where I'll be able to travel and then do all these things in person. I mean, this is wonderful. To be honest with you, thank you for inviting me on here. I've been so disconnected from people for so long.
Well, we didn't tell you, but me and Sid are going to show up at your door tomorrow. So we'll be there in 12 hours or so. We'll be at your door.
That's fine. I like Sid's like 12 hours. That's like not enough time for me to get
enough sleep.
Just like pack.
Yeah, I wrote in the comments earlier about having Rick on.
Awesome. Yeah, we gotta have Rick on. We definitely gotta have Rick on. He's got all kinds of stories. He creates all kinds of stuff. His artwork, he's literally the reason to blame 2020. So like we should have him on for sure.
Look, his board is the board he made in 2004 called Ouija for paranormal potheads. Is the most it literally is the most popular board in my collection living in Denver. Where
I get more questions about that board than anything. Literally, my Ouija board gets the most questions. I think I posted it once.
Yep. It's hilarious. It's like Rick, I
need one of those.
You made a paranormal like pothead board? Good for you. No, I'm just kidding. What did you do?
Well, there you go, Rick. Kenna said she needs a Ouija board. So we'll hook you guys up and we'll get Kenna a Ouija board.
I need a Ouija board.
I should have brought it. I did grab a couple of boards.
Does it double as a rolling tray?
They do have those. They make them now out there. They've gotten so big. I think that's the ganja rolling thing I've seen online.
Yeah.
But someone stole his Ouija board. Like Rick was I don't want to tell us stories. Like this is terrible. So anyway, ask him about the Ouija board. Other than I didn't pick one up in 2004, but later on, as I was cataloging my collection and starting to go through it, here we go.
There it is.
So that's the one that was stolen. That was that.
It's so cute.
Merchant locker, still factory sealed.
Look at that. So Rick is probably literally puking on your screen right now. He hates that board because he went to a conference. I'm going to tell the story. I'm sorry, Rick. I'll tell it. He went to a conference and he was sitting there and he was selling it along with all of his other stuff. And some guy came up there and was, oh, it's really cool. It's really neat. That guy went on to produce what you see there. What I will leave Rick with was many years later, this gentleman ran into Rick at another convention. And Rick confronted him about it. So I will let you know. He can tell the story about how it ended. But I didn't pick one up. Rick literally went up to his. I said, look, Rick, I never got one of those boards.
Now I don't want it.
And he went to his. So he went upstairs to his attic and he picked out like one of the what he considered like imperfect ones. Like wasn't good enough to sell. And so I like it even better because it was like not perfect and it wasn't like everyone else's. So I think it's neat. But everyone who comes into film in my area, they immediately go to that one because we're in Colorado, the first state to legalize marijuana. So like we're known for this. And whenever they come up here, it's the first thing on the news. They're like Ouija for paranormal potheads. And I'm like, oh, it never fails. But at least Rick gets a plug for, early on.
Well, I think Rick needs to create a like a normal sized version of Ouijazilla with all the ads around it, like create an actual board of like the scale size of Ouijazilla. I think it'd be cool, sell a limited run of them like you do with the planchettes and stuff.
I think it would be awesome.
We got to get Ouijazilla up again. We got to put it together again somewhere.
Well, so for people who are watching, who are looking for a place to go, and as everyone is, Michigan Paracon we're hoping to have his giant planchette that everyone saw his family sticking in the middle of will be at Michigan Paracon. So I'm going to plug it hard right now. Michigan Paracon, everyone should go. People have missed these conferences. It's so much fun. I've been going for years.
You've told me some stories about that convention. You've told me some stories.
It's epic. There's some things I wanted
last year.
Oh, it's great. It's so, and I didn't get to go last year. My husband went in my place, really hilarious. So yeah, he had to go and help. And Rick was.
Gary went for the party though, right? Gary went for the party more than the convention.
Everyone loves Gary. Gary is the nicer half. He's the much better half. So everyone loves Gary. For a long time, Gary wouldn't go to the conventions because he was busy and he never went. He would just be jealous when he'd see the pictures everyone's posting. And they were like, "You've made him up. You're not married. You didn't really get married." And then one day he was there and they were like, "Oh, he's real." Like,
well, that's why I had to bring Sid on too, because we've talked about her, back and forth about going shopping with Gary all this time. But I she's real. So somebody actually tolerates me 24/7, lives with me, deals with me. So Matt's shaking his head. He doesn't know how you do it, but I had to prove that she's actually real. Somebody can handle it.
I still think you pay her, but that's fine.
Whatever. There's no shame in paying.
No, I don't know. It's been great having you on, though. We've been texting over the quarantine. We got to get together again. I know you've had a lot of stuff going on. Everybody's been locked down. Everybody should go to Michigan Paracon. You've been telling me about that for a while, that everybody should go there. What's next? What's next for the Talking Board Historical Society? What's coming up?
We have to figure that out. Like that's it. There are some things we know we want to do, and other things that I think with the COVID, we've really seen how these exhibits we do across the country are probably a really big way to go, because we did one at the San Francisco Museum with Gene from the Museum of Talking Boards, and it was epic. I mean, people were tweeting. It's so weird. I can't think of his name, but people from like American Idol were coming through, and they were like, "Holy crap!" And they were tweeting. So like we were tweeting back and forth. It was just so weird that so many people. And we had about 200 boards on display, and they did such a nice job how they put it together. And that really gave us a lot of ideas on how to do exhibits today. So I think you're going to see a lot of exhibits. I think hopefully you'll see a lot of us traveling and going to different places and just, I don't know, having fun and doing some more landmarks, and hopefully we run out of people to put gravestones in for, but you never know.
I'm really hoping 2021's a lot better.
Oh,
Travel.
It can't be much worse.
Yeah.
Hey.
It was the worst year of my life, so I am not sad to see it go away.
Me neither.
I say that, but I know for people who've lost someone, they won't feel what I'm talking about, because losing people is just the worst thing that can happen. But it brought a lot of people closer. I think it'll be interesting to see, one, how many COVID babies we end up seeing. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot.
The baby boom.
Big baby boom.
There's nothing else to do.
It ended marriages, and it brought a lot of marriages closer together. I mean, Gary and I, we've been married for so long. We were together 10 years in 2004 when we got married. We've been together a very long time. But even having to, this guy was literally taking care of me. I mean, he was picking me up and trying to drag me to the toilet. That is not what you sign up for. I mean, I know you say through sickness and in health, but when someone's got drains that are like, this nasty blood clotted crap is coming out of it, you have to clean it and you have to do all this stuff. That's not what you think of when you think of being with someone you love. And so, he's definitely earned his points in heaven.
But when you love somebody, that stuff is easy to do. It really is.
Yeah, but I don't know what.
I do it all the time.
Broken. Because I wouldn't. I mean, I would do it for him, but I don't know. That's tough.
I say this jokingly, but there was days when Eric was in his wheelchair. We lived in a hospital for 4 years, and there was days that Eric was in his wheelchair, and they were just really bad days. And I was like, at the end of the day, I would be like, I did not push him down a set of stairs. Today was a good day. Like we survived. Yeah, it's tough.
I wouldn't say it's easy mentally to actually do it because you love these people and you don't want to see them hurting and you don't want to see them suffering and all of that stuff. But I think it's easy for you to want to do it because you do love them that much.
And I was lucky. Gary, even though he works for Fidelity, he was trained as a nurse as well. I went to school. So at least I had someone I knew. I am so drugged up, I don't know what's happening. And I had a pick line. So I had a line that was going directly into my heart that Gary would have to every morning inject the antibiotics into. And I mean, when you have someone doing that, you're just like, shit, I hope you're doing this right. You know what I mean? Like you're like, there was a lot of and then COVID hits and the nurse is like, suddenly this nurse, you're already scared you're going to kick off. And suddenly someone you're used to seeing is covered up their face. And I can't tell whether she's laughing. And, and I'm like, at the beginning, it's like, do I have to wear a mask in my own house? Is this real? Like, because not like hoax, but I was in the hospital when it started and I was already drugged up. So I thought I was watching this is a bad movie. Like, I mean, what is this? Like Zombieland? Like this infection's coming and everyone's getting it and everyone's dying. And I'm like, I gotta get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? Like, and that's for me. It wasn't until April or May where I started talking to people again and really seeing what had changed. And literally the first time Gary took me to Walmart and I stayed in the car, I was watching all these people wear masks. I had never seen such a thing. Never. Like
me neither.
Yeah, and no one had, but in America, if you were in Asia, you see a lot, and in Boston, I had seen people who were Asian wearing them because they don't want to get sick, but I'd never seen everyone wearing them. And you guys got the ability of watching it happen. It's like, it was like coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's here. I literally woke up one day and went outside and was like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, it was literally like, holy shit. Like, I mean, people are like, I'm pushing my walker and they're like, whoa, like people are like, I'm like, I've gotten contagious, like I might have something. I've never seen.
Like you're shedding COVID with your walker.
Like Rick waking up The Walking Dead there. And then
exactly. I still walk like The Walking Dead. It looks really rough. But anyway.
And the crazy part is you were extra at risk because all of us were like, I would say that a vast majority of us were very afraid because nobody knew what the impact of this was going to be. And then you're already immunocompromised because you're sick, because you have that infection.
Yeah.
I bet that was very scary.
I have to take antibiotics every day for the rest of my life. So I can't drink alcohol anymore because of the medicine I take. I know. Look at Steve's like, Steve. What? Like I would have just died.
The first place we went to when I came out there was like a craft brewery. So I don't know.
Yeah. I know. At this point, I can't. So I have to take antibiotics every day now because the metal that's inside my body can hide the infection. It can make it's gross. It's like a slime layer and it hides in there. Mm-hmm. So the only way for me to get this completely out of my body, and I just couldn't do it. I just physically wasn't able. I would have totally died. They talked to me about this and I was like, oh fuck no. They have to put me back under, take out everything, screw this suit onto me, and then I would be in bed, not getting out of bed. So everything you do, your body does, has to happen in the bed for 6 to 8 weeks until the infection is completely cleared. Then another 11-hour operation where they put the stuff back into you, where everything that happened before could happen again. I was like, no, not even a little bit. So the alternative is to take this therapy, which is to take really high doses of antibiotics and the hopes that this infection does not break out of it and come back. It's possible it happens on its own. It's possible that it never does. So it's someday, I'm guessing, I'm going to have this cleanup. It's just not going to be anywhere near today. So that's what I'm hoping for. So yeah, the bummer part is not being able to drink. It's not like I was a big drinker before, but I did socially drink.
It's somebody telling you can't. That's what it is.
That's what I'm being told what to do. It's like
right. If I decide not to do it, that's cool. But when you tell me I can't.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing I can't do. So they said you drink and you're going to get really really sick. Okay, I'm already sick. I don't want to be sicker. Well then, I'm all set with it. So and I wasn't a big drinker before. It's never part of my. I like to say spirits of another kind. Cheers.
Steve Hayes says, God, Murch, you're such a drama queen.
He calls you a drama queen.
He's totally right. He knows because he's slept with me.
Oh.
In room. That's all. Joe had his wife, so I guess it was a threesome. No, it's a foursome. Gary was there.
Sounds like a ruckus party.
It was Matt.
I'm talking about Michigan Paracon. They always stay with us when because they drive out.
You told me so many stories about Michigan Paracon, and I think like 2% of them were actually about like the Paracon itself. All the rest was like the after party and like the hotel and like limos and people getting sick in limos. People that are supposed to do presentations getting sick because they drank a little bit too much. Like,
oh yeah,
all kinds of wild stuff. So I mean, it's on my list for next year that I definitely want to get to.
It's such a great time. You literally will. You feel like Michigan Paracon and Gettysburg were two conferences that you have like withdrawals from. You know, for a couple of days you're with people you don't get to see most of the year, and you catch up and you love being with them and the stories and all this stuff, and you connect with them and you watch their presentations and you're just totally amazed, and then it's like boop, nothing. It's such a bummer. You get on that plane and you're so tired, you haven't slept for 3 or 4 days, and then you're just like, I wish I was back there. So it's always a great time. And Sage Paracon, I'm going back to the UK this year, if later in the year things get better. So you'll be able to see us there. And I think Sage is also doing
we're doing that home thing this year, right?
Exactly. So you can catch us. A bunch of us from the Talking Board Historical Society are doing it. You'll get to hear, you know, they'll probably have me doing historical stuff, and everyone else will do something kind of cool.
Well, I know me and you have talked about a couple things for next year, with as far as teaming up for events and
Would love to.
doing stuff and getting you out there. And I know Matt's been wanting to do some events. We've been talking about some spots, and Kenna and Tori too. We've been all talking about doing like a booze and booze kind of thing somewhere. But hopefully 2021 allows us to travel a little bit and do some stuff. I know Matt's been taking a COVID test like every week since like June, because he travels all over the country anyways. He goes everywhere, and he hasn't really
life, man.
He's been responsible with it. He's taken his test, but he's still getting out there and living life. He was out here a few weeks ago, so it's been good. But you know, we're hoping to be able to get out to you soon. Like I said, we're waking sit up in a few hours because we got to get on a flight. We'll be out there. We'll be out there tomorrow. So,
well, you guys, everyone's welcome, and it's actually really cool. It's awesome to meet everybody, but it's also really cool to see Matt, to put a face to someone who wrote me a very long time ago.
Don't lie, it's not that cool.
Yeah,
Steve.
You're making his head big.
He's got some pretty big wood.
That is. I hear that
thing he needs to hear.
Hit me funny anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
Last thing he needs to hear, and now his head's gonna just, you know.
Yeah, that's okay.
He's got his girlfriend in the chat somewhere.
Nothing wrong with a big head.
Hey, actually,
I knew that was going to go there eventually. I
Girth.
knew it.
We're having merch.
Not about length, it's about girth.
listen, the way that Sid got introduced to Murch and Gary was when I went out there. Like their first joke was when I went out there, I was FaceTiming Sid after I landed, and they're cooking dinner. First of all, they're like the greatest people in the world. They're the greatest hosts ever. Like I had a blast while I was out there for a week. It was a lot of fun, but they're cooking dinner the first night, and I'm on FaceTime with her, and I walk up to the girl and I show her what they're grilling, and she goes, "Oh, that's a lot of meat." And Gary goes, "Well, you know how us gays are," and it's like, you know, that's just like that's the humor, and it's so funny. And,
I love it.
Her first introduction to them, and Gary and Murch are like two of the greatest people I've ever met, and I will tell everybody that forever. They're just the nicest people. They really are. And me and Sid are ready to get out there. She's ready to do some Christmas shopping. So
There's great shops out here for sure.
there are. I remember having a picture in the Christmas shop. So I'm sure we'll be getting out there soon. And 2021, hopefully be a lot more traveling for everybody. And
people need to start traveling in February.
Yes.
Here's the Paracon.
In February. Everybody go down to Savannah, most haunted city in America. And
Yeah, merch. Come on down. End of February.
yeah, there we go.
For my birthday, I would love to do it.
There we go. We'll all go meet up. We'll all meet up in February in Savannah. Let's Kenna's Paracon. It'll be a blast. We'll eat at Kayak Cafe, which is on Broughton Street, by the way. It's one of the best places in Savannah to eat.
I've been eyeballing plane tickets. Just kind
There you
of
go.
like watching them.
It's getting cheaper.
There are no
I
flights.
may have to have Matt pick me up or something though, so I don't have to rent a car.
I think Chip Coffey lives there.
Or can
Yeah,
I?
he
Can I
lives
pick
in
me up?
Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta.
You're
Yeah.
in Atlanta. Right, Chip.
Me
Yep.
and Sid lived in Savannah for like 45
Greta's
minutes.
my book. Greta's my booking. So
Oh my God, Greta and I are great friends. We're old friends.
yeah.
Oh, that's
So I
hilarious.
used to be on a little RIP Files thing, show that's on Amazon Prime and stuff. So she books me So yeah, so Chip was going to do the Honest Savannah Paracon, but I'm gonna get him at one of these. This is the first one, so we'll see how it goes.
Well,
and then
you tell them that when you talk to Greta, be like, Murch wants him there, and she'll be like, oh boy.
well, she's gonna say you're gonna have to come too. So
yeah, well, that'll be a party. Everybody will go down. We'll have a good time. Murch
I'll have all of these guys there.
Murch will not drink anything, so me and Matt will have to drink, extra
for me. Yeah, drink for me. And if you think I'm dirty, I am nothing compared to Chip Coffey. I hope he's watching, or I hope he sees this, because the gauntlet is thrown down. He is dirty. I love every minute of it. He's
I think Savannah will be fun. Definitely in February. We'll have to get Murch down there. We were looking at tickets the other day. We still want to come down. I know Matt's coming. Tori's got to come down. It'll be fun. I probably will never leave. We'll just buy a house while we're down there, and then we'll move there, and everything will be fine. But it's been great, actually being able to chat for once and not just text. So it's been good to see you.
Good to see you.
I was
I hope
excited.
we're able to travel again next year and link up.
This show is usually an hour, and we're on almost 2. So
Yeah, you got a 2-hour special.
We're going to have to get my grandmother to show up to get me out of here.
Well, let's
It's been a blast. Thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate you spending time with us, chatting. We wish you well. We're glad that you're healing and everything's getting better, and you guys are getting over the flu at this point. And
yes, I'm feeling much better. Today was my best day so far.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, we're glad to hear it. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
And,
thank you.
Where can people go to find out more information about the Talking Board Historical Society and everything?
Plug it.
Awesome. And by the way, great accent. I love your accent, Matt.
I worked very hard on this.
It sounds like a Boston accent.
It's it's a South Shore Boston accent. A little sprinkle of Southie in there.
You are what everyone wants me to sound like, so I'm jealous there too. Another thing that you have the Boston accent. I'm like, no.
These clowns will tell you after about 5 minutes of hanging out with me in person, you'll have the accent down in no time.
A story for another time. I went to school to learn how to get rid of my accent. So I came from Maine, and I would have had a Boston accent, except for I was taught to have a Canadian accent.
Side note, real quick off that main thing. Who did you grow up sneaking through the woods and telling you ghost stories at your campfire? You told me
Stephen King.
Yeah,
so
the guy.
Oh wow!
I had the amazing ability of, we just happened to be lucky where we lived, and Stephen King, his family, and he have a camp where we have a camp. We call them camps, but they're like, I don't know, cottages, or I don't know what you call it. What else do you call them? But in Maine. And so as a little boy, this strange man who I didn't really know would come over at night, only at night, as we were around the campfire, and scare the shit out of us, telling us stories that he would make up on the spot. They were not, literally would ask us questions. It's a brilliant, brilliant thing. He's a brilliant writer when someone can do this. Boy or girl, red or blue. And you just answer the questions. And then he creates an entire ghost story out of every answer you gave him. Every time, different story. And he'd leave, and he'd just walk out into the night, like literally blackness. There are no street lamps. He just walks out onto a dirt road. And I'm like, turn to my dad, who the fuck is this? Like, why do you have this man come over and scare the crap out of us? And then he just disappears. Like, what the hell? It's Stephen King. So anyway, they
really had the coolest life ever.
That was one of my go-to things outside, like this time of year where I live, it gets foggy, like real dense fog in the morning. And I'll walk outside and be like, man, it looks like a Stephen King movie outside.
Stephen King movie.
I can tell you that I heard a lot of some of the stories that would make it into his books later on, which is super cool. And then strangely ran into him when I was doing something at Blumhouse, and it sided against, this is just a cool story. This means nothing to anybody else. It means something to me. I was in there, and Jason Blum, who runs Blumhouse, he's excited to show me around, right? This is his house, literally. And he's like, look, I'll show you around. Stephen King's there because they're going to be working on something. And I see Stephen King in the waiting room, and we were already catching up. He immediately knew who I was. And I don't look anything like I did before, which is really weird. But I'm wearing a Ouija t-shirt, and he's like, wait a minute, you're not Bobby Murch, are you? And I'm like, holy shit. Because, I didn't see who was behind me, and oh my God, and those great glasses. And so then Jason Blum finally comes out, and he's like, Murch, I have a very good friend to introduce you to. And Stephen King goes, oh, Murch? Oh, God, we go way back. And he's like, I used to tell him scary stories when he was little. And Jason Blum's like, what? Like, how could you possibly know? I'm like, maniacs were for me. So your life is, again, when I tell people it's the story that's behind every board and the experience and collecting and working and doing, I really mean it. It's not just for show. It is, there are so many amazing experiences that I just fell into. It's dumb luck. And again, just being obsessed with something so badly that people look at you and say, yeah, that's kind of weird, but okay. Yeah, I guess we'll hire him. That's what happens. So, but you asked me, because I know you got to tie this off here. You asked where you can find us, and you can go to tbhs.com, talkingboardhistoricalsociety.com, tbhs.org, and you can find us all over social media. Check out our Facebook, our Instagram, Twitter. And, again, please check out the museumoftalkingboards.com. That is Gene Orlando. He is actually the godfather of all of our collectors. He was and is my mentor. And then the Salem Witchboard Museum, follow them, like them, everything. You're going to see some amazing exhibits, including some things from the movie, props from the Witchboard movies that Kevin Tenney, the director and writer, are giving us to put on show, and things that have been given to me. So we're going to have tons of great things there. And then Rick Schreck, find him everywhere. And did Rick ever say where we were supposed to tell people to go?
Yeah, he put the website. Hold on, let me pull it up.
His email up, honestly.
Oh, cool. That's what it was. Yeah, it was his email. He said, I'm pulling it up. Yeah, send it to his email if you want any of his stuff, whether it's the planchette, the metal trading card, or his t-shirts or anything like that. He put his email up. I'm trying to scroll back to it. There it is, ouijazilla.com. Reach out to Rick there. He'll give you all the goods that he's got. So,
and there's his email.
zombievirusart@gmail.com.
He's a super talented tattoo artist. If anybody's ever looking for a tattoo, go to Rick. He's very talented at that as well.
And Rick, I hope you come on our show.
If you enter Booze and Booze at the discount of 0% will apply to your order.
But thank you again for coming out. Really, we appreciate it. We appreciate hanging out with us for a couple hours. It was supposed to be an hour. We held you for an extra hour, so we thank you again for talking. Apologize to Gary for keeping you all night.
I can't get out of this chair until Gary comes to get me out. So until I yell for him, he's just going to leave me here.
You might have fallen asleep, but that's fine.
We can do a stand with your grandmother.
And we'll be chatting soon, I'm sure. And I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot from you in the new year once you get back on your feet and get going. And we'll all link up, hopefully, in February.
Awesome. And great seeing you, Sid, and Kenna, and Tori, and Matt, all of you. It's wonderful to meet the people I haven't talked to before and to put faces to people I have talked to. It's wonderful.
It's been a pleasure.
I was so excited.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Next week, is it Hauser?
Yes,
I think it is
Johnny
Hauser. Johnny Hauser next week. So,
okay.
Awesome.
We always
guys. Catch everybody next Wednesday.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Till next time.
Next time.
Yeah.